War is a brutal crucible where survival is never guaranteed. Yet across history, some combat roles were so perilous, so horrifying, or so deeply unsettling that they made the battlefield seem almost survivable by comparison. Today, we're exploring 5 of the most grueling combat roles ever faced by soldiers, roles that tested the very limits of human resilience. Prepare yourself for a journey into the darkest corners of warfare. Kicking things off at number 5, the tunnel rats of the Vietnam War. In the Vietnam War, the Viet Cong crafted a vast underground labyrinth, miles of tunnels, chambers, and bunkers. These weren't mere hideaways, they were strategic strongholds. Viet Cong fighters would strike with lightning speed, vanishing into the tunnels before American forces could retaliate. The network linked distant villages, housed weapons, and even included hospitals and stages for propaganda. Water traps shielded the tunnels from gas or flooding, making them nearly impregnable. The US tried gas, water, even dogs, but nothing could crack the tunnels. Enter the tunnel rats, courageous volunteers, often small in stature, from the US, Australia, and New Zealand. Their job was to slip into these dark, cramped tunnels with only a pistol, bayonet, and flashlight to hunt Viet Cong, collect intelligence, and demolish the tunnels. Picture yourself in a suffocating tunnel, barely able to move, flashlight off to stay hidden. Every step risks triggering a trap, perhaps a venomous snake tied to a tripwire or a spear thrust through a concealed hole. You're straining to hear a breath, smell sweat, or spot movement, knowing the enemy is ready to strike. Hand-to-hand fights were frequent in these tight spaces. Each mission felt like an eternity in a deadly maze. Few tunnel rats made it through the war. Every descent into the tunnels was a brush with death. Yet these soldiers pushed forward, crawling through the darkness with unmatched bravery. Number 4, the galley rower. Before steam power, ships depended on wind or human strength. In ancient times, galley rowers were skilled professionals, not slaves, respected for their vital role in battle. But by the 16th century, Europe's expanding navies demanded more rowers than skilled men could supply, ushering in the grim era of the galley slave. In France, courts sentenced criminals to the galleys instead of execution, a punishment often more cruel than death. From 1680 to 1748, roughly 60,000 men were forced to row. Chained to their benches, they endured squalor, unable to bathe or relieve themselves properly. The stench of a galley could be detected miles away. Chains caused festering sores, and disease thrived in the filth. During combat, rowers were shackled to the ship. If it sank, they went down with it. Winning was their only shot at survival, but even then, many served beyond their sentences. Capture by Barbary pirates meant lifelong enslavement in North Africa's brutal slave markets. For galley slaves, life was a relentless struggle in a floating hell. During combat, rowers were shackled to the ship. If it sank, they went down with it. Winning was their only shot at survival. But even then, many served beyond their sentences. Capture by Barbary pirates meant lifelong enslavement in North Africa's brutal slave markets. For galley slaves, life was a relentless struggle in a floating hell. Number 3, the flamethrower operator. Using fire as a weapon dates back centuries, but the modern flamethrower, deployed in World Wars I and II, was devastating. It could incinerate enemies in bunkers or force them into the open for gunfire. In the Pacific, flamethrowers cleared Japanese cave defenses, saving Allied lives. But for the operator, the role was a deadly gamble. The heavy gear slowed you down, and the weapon's short range meant getting dangerously close to the enemy. Run out of fuel, and you're vulnerable to an enemy furious at your attempt to burn them. Capture often led to execution. A stray bullet hitting the fuel tank could engulf you in flames. Snipers targeted flamethrower operators, and the mental strain, seeing men burn, smelling scorched flesh, was overwhelming. One Marine unit at Iwo Jima suffered a 92% casualty rate, with an average combat lifespan of just 4 minutes. By 1978, flamethrowers were phased out, replaced by vehicle-mounted systems, but their operators' courage and sacrifice remain unforgettable. Number 2. U-boat crewmen. German U-boats terrorized the seas in both world wars, nearly crippling Britain's supply lines with deadly precision. Their crews were the elite, intelligent, skilled, and fiercely proud. But life inside a U-boat was a descent into a claustrophobic nightmare. Patrols could last 6 months, with no chance to bathe, shave, or change clothes. Crews shared hot bunks, sliding into beds still warm from the last occupant. Food was bland and canned, and the cramped space offered no room for exercise or privacy. Days blended into monotonous routines, with no glimpse of sunlight or fresh air. In battle, fear was constant. As Allied sonar and anti-submarine tactics advanced, U-boat losses soared, with some estimates of 75% crew casualties. Lifespans averaged 3 months. Every sonar ping signaled potential doom: drowning, burning, or suffocating in a sinking sub. The terror of being trapped in a steel coffin on the ocean floor haunted every mission. Number 1. The Penal Battalion. Penal battalions were armies of the condemned, criminals, deserters, or anyone labeled undesirable. Used since Roman times, they became infamous on World War II's Eastern Front. The Germans forced petty criminals and disgraced soldiers into suicide missions, like clearing minefields or storming fortified positions. The Soviets went further. Stalin's 1942 Order 227, not one step back, outlawed retreat, sending violators to penal battalions. Around 430,000 men served, used as expendable fodder to wear down German defenses or expose enemy positions. Often unarmed until the last second, they were watched by NKVD troops who shot anyone fleeing. Survival was nearly impossible. Most units were annihilated. At the Volga River, one Soviet unit lost 629 of 929 men in 3 days. Promises of redemption were hollow. These men were doomed. Their desperate bravery, born of necessity, was extraordinary, but their fate was tragic. From tunnel rats to penal battalions, these roles reveal the grimmest realities of war. Each demanded courage beyond comprehension, in the shadow of almost certain death. Which role do you find the most harrowing? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if this journey through history gripped you, like and subscribe for more stories from the past. See you next time.